The Florida Panthers welcome in Anthony Duclair and the San Jose Sharks to Sunrise. We discuss how the Sharks are looking post Erik Karlsson, and is David Quinn on the hot seat?
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into this special crossover edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast and Locked On San Jose Sharks podcast. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you once again for making each of our podcasts your first listen of the day. For everyone on the San Jose Sharks feed, let me introduce myself. My name is Armando Velez from the Hockey News, and you can follow me on X at Monoman12. Follow the show account on X and Instagram at LO_FLA Panthers. And very thankful once again to be doing yet another crossover with the host of Locked On Sharks, a former Florida resident, and for the people on the Florida Panthers feed, once again, if you've heard crossovers with us before, a Miami Dolphins fan as well, JD Young from Locked On Sharks. JD, welcome to the show.
Hey, buddy. How's it going? It's been a while.
It's been a little bit. Only these two teams only face each other twice a year, so it's great to get together as the Florida Panthers and San Jose Sharks will be facing off against each other twice in the month of November. But before we get there, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. So let's actually spend a few minutes before we get into the hockey just to talk about the football side of things. So Dolphins are 5-2, and I remained a little, not necessarily unbothered, but I'm not worried about when it comes to them, because I think that with the team getting a little healthier in the next few weeks, and with the schedule kind of opening up a little bit, really only one true test really in the next few weeks, that neutral site game against the Chiefs. Even with that loss against the Eagles, which was lost in the trenches, basically, I remained pretty even keel about the 5-2 start for Miami.
Oh yeah, same here. And I mean, they were down 60% of their offensive line, and they were driving to tie the game. And Tua threw a ball that he probably wants back. But like, I mean, Tua's going to throw one of those a game, so it's just that's who you get. But like, yeah, it's they were down their top two corners, right? They're 60% of their offensive line. They don't have Chain in it, and they were scheming up ways to get the offense going. And I thought the defensive line looked pretty. I think that's the best we've seen the defensive line look this season, and especially against a very, very good Eagles team. And it wasn't until in the game when they really actually got their running game going. So yeah, I'm not worried. I think once this team gets like full Megatron, gets all their guys back, they'll be fine. I'm not worried about it right now. So, but they do need to beat either the Chiefs or the Bills at home to kind of put that mentality of like, yeah, we can take it to one of these top teams. So, but yeah, right now it's just keep stacking as many wins as you can, and then you have to just win one of those games, and you're going to feel good about yourself going into the playoffs because you're probably going to be a 1 or 2 seed. So.
Yeah, more than likely, and thankfully they faced the Patriots, who did the Dolphins a favor this Sunday by beating Buffalo for sure. So definitely a big help that they got this Sunday. But let's go right into the hockey, my friend, where the Florida Panthers will be welcoming the San Jose Sharks. Anthony Duclair, former Panther, in to Sunrise, Florida, where it'll be a 7:45 puck drop Eastern Standard Time, 4:45 Pacific. We'll discuss more about the scattered NHL schedule in the final segment of the show, but let's discuss more about the Sharks. Anthony Duclair's fit. I mean, we know what the mission and the mindset is for a lot of San Jose Sharks fans this season, as far as what is happening. I mean, a minus 13 goal differential, only winless team in the NHL, and ranked last as far as shots on goal per game at 39. It's funny because the next closest team is actually the Tampa Bay Lightning, which when I looked this up earlier. So what has been, even though still without a win, what are the things that you like out of what you've seen out of this San Jose Sharks team through 5 games?
Things I like. My boy William Eklund has been playing pretty well so far, I would say, in the young season, and he's been making his rookie mistakes. And he definitely made a mistake that led to a goal last game against the Preds. But like you can see what makes William Eklund special, the way he's able to find open space and create open space for his teammates. His passing, unfortunately, some of the guys he's been passing to maybe aren't the most skilled players, so they're not really able to kind of do anything with it. He's been, I think, a bright spot. Tomas Hertl has been quietly having a really good season. The Sharks have seven goals in 5 games this season, and Tomas Hertl has 5 points. So he's a point per game player on a team that has scored 7 goals this year total. So Hertl, I think, has been having a really strong start to the season, especially after last year where he had a really poor start to the year. And a lot of Sharks fans thought he had a really down season despite scoring 63 points last year. So it's good to see Hertl kind of being the guy, especially with Logan Couture not playing for probably not expected to play until the Sharks get back home in the beginning of November. So, and I think Mackenzie Blackwood has been a pleasant surprise for the Sharks. He had a really strong opening game against the Colorado Avalanche. We stopped 51 to 52 shots, kept the Shark. That's the only reason they got a point was because Mackenzie Blackwood literally dragged them to overtime in a game where they gave up 111 shot attempts in that game. And but other than that, it has been what you would expect from what many people predicted to be the worst team in the NHL. They are the worst team in the NHL, and they have many issues, including getting their puck out of the own zone, giving up a bajillion shot attempts a game, and just an inability to sustain offense. So when they do sustain offense, they can't really put together high quality shots. So it is just a mess in San Jose right now.
Yeah, and Mackenzie Blackwood starting 3 of the 5 games so far. A higher GAA, but a better save percentage than Kaapo Kähkönen there. And you mentioned Logan Couture that he's sidelined. Mikael Granlund's also sidelined for the San Jose Sharks as well. And there's a 3-way tie for points as far as 2 points with Zadina, Sutherland, and Thrun. And Zadina getting a second chance in San Jose after everything that happened in Detroit with his contract being terminated as well. It's funny because even though the San Jose Sharks have 2 power play goals on the season, the Florida Panthers have the exact same amount of power play goals, but more opportunities on the power play, which they're not converting. So I will take percentage-wise right now the numbers that San Jose has over the Florida Panthers, because both on penalty kill and on the power play, San Jose has the better percentages there for this very, very young season as well. So also big trade happened this offseason, and still there's a lot of dead cap. There's a lot of buried penalty as well on the Sharks cap. We know that the mission is to get assets at the trade deadline. I know Duclair is on an expiring contract. The mission is to probably trade him to a contender. But is there anyone else on the trade block? I heard something about Logan Couture before the season started, I believe, but there's still a lot of term on his contract. So that's going to be that's also going to be a very hard contract to move. Is there any contracts that Mike Grier is trying to move this season when the trade deadline comes around?
I think the 2 you have to look at, which are probably the easiest of 2, other than Anthony Duclair, and there's talk that he might be a candidate to sign an extension. The other one is Alexander Barabanov, who the Sharks acquired from the Maple Leafs a couple of seasons ago. He was kind of never really could kind of fit in the lineup and has really found a home with San Jose. Has really kind of blossomed into a really nice second line player for the Sharks. He's in the last year of his deal, and he could be looking at getting a kind of a 4-year, $4.5 million is kind of the number I'm thinking right now if he wants to sign an extension. Or he could be a quality player to add to somebody's middle six. He's good on the power play. His ability, his passing, his ability to carry the puck out of the zone. Like, he has a lot of good. He's kind of that glue guy on the line, kind of whatever you need him to do, he can do that. And we saw Couture kind of had struggled the past couple of years put together, and we saw Couture's best season last year in a while because of Barabanov's ability to kind of do the things that Couture struggles with now. So those two really partnered well. Mike Hoffman's another one. His contract is not what you would want. The problem is the Sharks they only got one more retention slot, right? Because they've used the retention slot on Brent Burns and Erik Karlsson. That gives you one more. And While you could, be enticed to keep part of Mike Hoffman's salary and that would clear up at the beginning of the new calendar year. But that's another guy who could be potential. I've heard the Logan Couture. I don't see it. Couture has said, I want to be a Shark. I want to be a Shark. And maybe when he gets a little bit older, I know he's 33 now or 34. Maybe when he gets a little bit older, maybe the last year or two of his contract could be looking, to try to win a cup. I just don't see Couture being moved right now, unless he goes up to Mike Grier and asks. And Mike Grier has said, if guys want to leave, I'll do what I can to try to. And we've seen him do that with Brent Burns and Erik Karlsson the last 2 seasons. So, but yeah, I think Barabanov and Duclair are probably the 2 big pieces that would be potentially available at the trade deadline.
Yeah, in the last few years with the San Jose Sharks getting the 4th overall pick last year, and then trying once again to get into that number 1 slot, that sweet spot that Mike Grier is definitely looking for. Another season of growing pains, unfortunately, for the pro squad in this 2022-23 season. But we are going to transition over to segment number 2, where we're going to discuss more about the Florida Panthers and their start to the season through 6 games, 5 games, as they are 2-3-0. We're going to discuss that more here on this crossover edition of Locked On Panthers and Locked On San Jose Sharks. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. And you shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big event. Game Time is the fast and easiest way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. See the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. All-in prices show your total upfront, so you know you're getting a great deal without hidden fees. Buy tickets in seconds in 2 taps. Game Time has deals right up to the start of the event, even an hour after it starts. It's the place to find last-minute seats. Find exclusive flash deals and sponsored deals on tickets for football, basketball, hockey, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
And when you're done buying your tickets, maybe you want to play some daily fantasy hockey. Matthew Tkachuk scores a hat trick. The Sharks win the Stanley Cup, and you could win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy on the Super app. All these are possible scenarios, except the Sharks winning the Stanley Cup this year. But you have a chance to win big, and you need to play daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper as the official daily fantasy app on the Locked On Network. Sleeper is our top choice for daily fantasy sports, especially daily fantasy hockey. With Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests with studs like Crosby, Makar, Tkachuk. All you have to do is pick more or less stats for these stars. Choose stats like goals, assists, saves, plus minus. They have blocked shots, whatever fits your fancy. You heard me, Sharks/Panthers fans. 100 times payouts on Sleeper, so start paying attention and get your picks right so you could win big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details.
Back on this crossover edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast and Locked On Sharks podcast. Thank you once again for making both of our podcasts your first listen of the day. And now to flip it to JD for anything Florida Panthers related that he would like to know.
So we know the Panthers were right last year, made it to the Cup final. Unfortunately, losing to the Golden Knights. I know everyone in San Jose was upset about that as well. The season's kind of been a little bit of a slow start, I would say. What has been kind of the big concern, maybe a bit of a hangover for the Panthers as this season has gotten started?
Special teams. That's really been the biggest issue for the Panthers. I mean, they're getting their touches on the puck whenever at times on the penalty kill, but it's just been the ability to clear zone, get some fresh players on the ice as well. That has been an issue for the Panthers throughout this very young season as well. And just and it's crazy because 5-on-5 play, they're actually doing pretty well. They're +2 in that category. Sergei Bobrovsky's save percentage is at a 927 at 5-on-5. And man, just when it comes to evening things out for the Panthers and all, and I saw that the San Jose Sharks in their 5-on-5 numbers, I think I saw -7 for them, and that's kind of one of my keys to the game as far as that is just to keep it at 5-on-5 for this one. And that was also my key of the game for against the Toronto Maple Leafs last week, because that's a power play that's really hard to stop for Toronto and all. And it's just, the power play themselves for the Panthers is at 10% right now, two of 20. And that's the thing. The thing is, there's a lot of new faces for the Panthers this season. I mean, and two of them on the power play. Evan Rodriguez is on power play 1. Oliver Ekman-Larsson is on power play 1 as well. But I don't want to marry right now the percentages on especially on the power play, because I do think the puck is moving. I just think that sometimes there's a little bit of hesitancy as far as when to take the shot, and sometimes it's released when the shooting lane closes right before, and especially in their game against the New Jersey Devils, I saw that sometimes against the Minnesota Wild, I saw that sometimes there's a lot of times where Matthew Tkachuk was trying to squeeze it in as far as fitting in a tight window for when he's behind the net to get it to Sam Reinhart. But that's really just been the issue on the power play as well. They do have one shorthanded goal against as well on the season. So there's going to be some growing pains as well. But hey, when you think about the Panthers and what they're doing at 5-on-5, I mean, it's really been the top line for the Panthers and the fourth line for the Panthers as well. Shots for percentage for this fourth line of Kevin Stenlund, former Sharks Steven Lorentz, and Ryan Lomberg. Their shots for percentage at 5-on-5 is at 73%. Just saw this right before we started recording, and that is what the Florida Panthers struggled with last season, during the Stanley Cup final. And of course, a lot of it had to do with the injuries that they had towards the end, where a lot of the fourth line players were starting to play on the third line. Eetu Luostarinen was out, and Sam Bennett is still out. The earliest that he'll be back at practice is likely on Thursday, so he's not playing on Tuesday night against the San Jose Sharks. Aaron Ekblad and Brandon Montour will still be out. December 15th is that range that they'll be back. It could be earlier, could be later. We still don't know. But Sam Reinhart has 6 goals in 5 games. He was actually named third star of the week for the NHL with how he's done in the last week. And the thing is, the Panthers got to protect their goaltender as far as that. They got to stay out of the box. Dmitry Kulikov, it's a nice story that he's back. It's a very nice story, but it just hasn't been cutting it as far as get the stick infractions as well, and putting the Panthers in a bad position. And they're going to have to protect their goalie even more, because Anthony Stolarz is getting the start for the Florida Panthers on Tuesday night against the San Jose Sharks. And actually, you posted on X his record against the Sharks career wise. Of course,
he's got like 8 wins. Yeah, 8 wins in 11 games, and he's got like a shutout in 923. Yeah, Stolarz, and that was playing with the Ducks. Like, Stolarz has been he's been very good against the Sharks. So nothing to worry about there. This is very much a what kind of get right type of game for the Panthers, where your power plays hasn't been working. Don't worry, the Sharks' penalty kill has been awful, and it's kind of interesting because the Sharks have, despite their woes in other places, the Sharks' penalty kill the past couple of seasons have been very good. They were 8th last year. 2 years ago, they were 2nd in the league. Like, this has been a very good penalty kill, but this year they have struggled on the penalty kill. They gave up 3 power play goals to the Hurricanes the other night. They struggled they gave up 2 to the Predators. It's not like the Predators are, boasting some huge power play. I think it's just because you have a kind of like with the Panthers, right? You have a lot of new faces, guys who used to be mainstays on the penalty kill are no longer with the team. Logan Couture, who's one of the Sharks' biggest penalty kill players, is hurt. And so it's been a lot of guys having to kind of pick up the extra slack, and it's just kind of been struggling with that right now. So I expect the Sharks penalty kill to get back on track at some time, but I think it's going to take a little bit more time for these guys to gel. And with the Sharks power play, it has been a chaotic circus this year because with the absence of Erik Karlsson, they don't really have a guy that you can point to run the power play. I would expect Kyle Burrows and Kenizhov. Both of these guys are stay-at-home defensemen to probably run the Sharks power play. They've also been using a 5-forward unit, which has led to a shorthanded goal and has looked really sloppy at times. So this feels like one of these teams is going to come out feeling like their special teams is feeling a lot better, whether it's the power play or the penalty kill or both. This feels like one of these teams is going to feel a lot better about it on Wednesday morning than they do right now. So,
yeah, and right now power play 1 for the Sharks according to Daily Faceoffs looking like Barabanov, Hurdle, Anthony Duclair, Mike Hoffman, and Burrows, and with 2 former Panthers where we know the familiarity of where they're going to be located, especially one of them being on the right flank as well, taking some one-timers, especially Mike Hoffman's. That's Mike Hoffman's office as far as when it comes to the power play. So that it's going to be no secret. Sasha Barkov and company is going to be talking about where to position themselves as far as blocking shots as well when it comes to that. So definitely I'm expecting that it's a unit that is going to be prepared as far as that. But we're going to transition over to segment number 3, where we're going to discuss more about not necessarily expectations of the game, but if David Quinn is able to survive this season for what is for the San Jose Sharks. And we're going to discuss the whole frozen frenzy that's going on in the NHL on Tuesday night and possible problems that we might have with it. We're going to discuss that more here on this crossover edition of Locked On Panthers and Locked On Sharks. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. And right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better place to get in on the action. The app is super easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Welcome back to this crossover edition of Locked On Florida Panthers and Locked On Sharks podcast. Thank you once again for making both Locked On Panthers and Locked On Sharks your first listen of the day. Before we get into David Quinn and also Frozen Frenzy, one roster move that the Florida Panthers did make today was that they have sent Justin Sourdif down to AHL Charlotte. No other roster move was made shortly after, so it looks like that William Lockwood will be making his Panthers debut on Tuesday night against the San Jose Sharks, likely playing with that third line along with Anton Lundell and Nick Cousins. Don't want to break up that fourth line with how they're playing it so far in the season through 5 games. So unless there's another roster move coming up that we don't know about, but it's not going to be Sam Bennett, Panther fans. Apologies for that. But let's go really into the Sharks and David Quinn. And a lot of people thought he was wrongly fired in New York. I was one of those people. They were heading into the right direction, and Dolan being Dolan is gonna make some decisions that have a lot of people scratching their heads. This is different. You're trying to accumulate assets. You're trying to reset the cap, and you're trying to mentor young guys, at least, and while trying to get some of the aging players out slowly but surely. My question to you, JD, is how does David Quinn survive this if he does?
I think he's actually fine for this year. I don't think he is. Honestly, I don't think he's on the hot seat. So David Quinn and Mike Gerd do have a close relationship. They both went to Boston University at different times. Like, they've worked together previously. Mike Grier handpicked, got hired last year, handpicked David Quinn to come in and coach. And they both know, the entire organization knows what this is, right? This is the first Sharks rebuild in 20 plus years, right? So you could maybe even argue 25 years since they've got drafted Patrick Marleau second overall. It's part of the process. Everybody knows this is going to be a long, slow rebuild, but it's what's best for the franchise to have long-term sustained success, right? Look at a team like the Devils, who picked multiple high picks, and now this team looks like it's going to be a wagon for years to come because they have very young talent who is just getting better. Yes, they got lucky getting some first overall picks, et cetera, but that's part of the game, right? Is you have to be lucky. I think for Quinn, you need to show your system works, and we've seen parts of yes and parts of no, and I think you need to see growth and development of your young players. Before the season started, when we did our kind of big preview, locked on previews, I said William Eklund is the most important man in San Jose because the entire season, the entire franchise kind of, if he needs to become a star for the Sharks, you need to set a good foundation so that when you have guys like Will Smith, who they picked fourth overall, Philip Beesett, who they picked in the first round last year, Quentin Musty, fingers crossed, Macklin Celebrini, when you start having these guys come in, they're not trying to teach these guys all on the fly. Like, you can kind of see the path of development. And William Eklund, they were very slow and deliberate with him. I think under previous regimes, William Eklund probably would have played the entire season or a good chunk of the season in the NHL. Last year, he played the entire season, but 8 games in the AHL, and then he got hurt and had shoulder surgery. But you see, he's a better player for it, right? He is more detailed in his own zone. He's gotten to play penalty kill. He just turned 21. He's already playing penalty kill for the Sharks. He's going to be a better player for it. So the entire season can guys like Eklund become full-time NHL players and continue their growth and development? And guys like Thomas Bordeleau, who kind of feels like a tweener AHL, NHL guy right now, can he start to stick and, kind of continue to his growth and development? And then some of their AHL guys, when the season kind of gets lost, can these guys become, NHL guys in the future? So right now, that's it. That's the most important thing is, how can you mentor and get these young guys ready to become franchise pillars for you in the future? And I think David Quinn, I think Mike Grier, David Quinn, they both know what this is right now. They're going to say, we want to try to make the playoffs, et cetera, but everybody knows what this is. And that's it, right? It's trying to figure out some answers. And I think next year, when the Sharks have some cap space, I think they're projected to have $35 million in cap space next year. You might have 2 potential top 5 picks entering if the Sharks, Will Smith and Macklin Celebrini, fingers crossed. If these guys start to enter the fray, then you could be like, okay, can we go from a rebuilding team to start that fun, frisky team that's okay, we can see where things are heading in the future. So I honestly don't think David Quinn is on the hot seat this year, as long as you see that growth and development from some of these guys. And I think, this franchise has kind of been, especially since Grier's gotten here, it's been transparent about what they are going to be in the future, and what they know it's better to kind of build this up slow and for the long-term success of the franchise. So I'm not worried about Quinn's job this year. We can check back next year. So
yeah, and I know you guys are also rooting against the Pittsburgh Penguins as well, as they do have their first round pick from the Carlson trade.
And we're rooting for the Devils. Go Devils. Make that Eastern Conference final so the Sharks can have 3 first round picks in this year's draft. That would be stupendous. So
all from the Tebow Meyer trade as well. But one last thing before we get out of here, as far as a kind of a special night in the NHL, a little bit of a conflict as far as the sports calendar, because we're recording this at 9:59 p.m. on a Monday night at Eastern Standard Time. So we know that one event is definitely going to be going on tomorrow in conflict with the Frozen Frenzy, and that is Game 7 of the NLCS between the Phillies and the Diamondbacks. And that goes to the issues with what I have with the Frozen Frenzy and why I have a little bit of a problem where it is on the sports calendar. Yeah, it's great that you're getting this out of the way in the second week of the season with it being 6 o'clock as the first puck drop between the Washington Capitals and Toronto Maple Leafs, all the way to 11 p.m., starting with the ending, with the Vegas Golden Knights and the Philadelphia Flyers as well. And it's a weeknight too. East Coast people like myself are not going to stay up until 1:30 in the morning. And if you're not watching this on YouTube, you see JD doing the crying emoji as he has West Coast, Best Coast him on his side as well. But also a way that I could see this being fixed as well is what the NHL can do pre-Super Bowl and after Super Bowl, because biggest sports month of the year, October, March, and April. Those are the three, especially October. And I can see I would love to see a situation where you have this on a Sunday post Super Bowl and have 30-minute increments instead. I know it's going to be a long day for the people at ESPN. I know, but they can put two crews as well. So, do you have any issues with the Frozen Frenzy?
Do it the Saturday before the Super Bowl, right? Like there's nothing else going on. You do it the Saturday before the Super Bowl. You kind of like get everyone excited. Be like, okay, yeah, the Super Bowl is, football ends tomorrow. Here's a taste of what you could have, when the Super Bowl is done. But I like the idea. I mean, I know East Coast people, but it's not like you guys are staying for Gold Knights or the Ducks, or you're not watching those West Coast teams most of the time, because the West Coast teams, most of them except for like the Gold Knights are pretty bad, to be honest. But like, there's nothing worse though when you're like, oh, cool, it's, my team's not playing tonight. Let me kind of catch up on some other ones. And there's 5 games and they're all going on at the same time. And you're watching one, you're like, oh, that goes to intermission. Let me go check on another one. They're all going to intermission at the exact same time. It's the worst thing. So I like the spreading out. I think the 15 minutes or 30 minutes, you can, whatever you want to do there. But like 15 minutes is still, that's what, 5 to 7 minutes of game time, depending on stoppages. Like you can kind of skip around a little bit. And I think the idea of the like red zone approach that they're going to be doing, I think it's a fun idea. And I think you should find those tent poles, especially like a Saturday type of, maybe once college football's over, once, the NFL is starting to wind down, find those tent pole moments. So that way you can start to build some excitement as you head into the playoffs. Because we both know playoff hockey is the best playoff events out there. Not that I got to watch a lot of playoff hockey recently, or root for playoff hockey recently, but like it's still the best sporting event. There's nothing more nerve-wracking than playoff hockey. I think playoff baseball is probably second there, just because of you live and die with every pitch. But like, I get the weeknight thing. But again, I mean, you're not watching. Who's staying up to watch the Ducks at like 11 o'clock for you guys? It's fine, but it's a chance for. I mean, for me, the game started at 3 o'clock that day, and after I'm gonna be at work, putting on the games, watching the games while I'm to finish up some stuff at work, and then it runs me through till the the end of the night. That is a great way to live life right there. Just so.
Yeah, and the latest game will end at 10:30 Pacific, 1:30 here. So definitely, but it can work. I do believe it can work. It's just how it's just different.
I think they're supposed to do it one more time sometime this year. So, but yeah, I think it should be like a monthly thing, or like
I agree.
Do it, like do it monthly. Like if you want to do it like a Saturday, and yes, especially when college football's over or college football's winding down, or maybe that week between Christmas and New Year's, like pick a day there or something like that. I think the best way to grow the sport is to get people to watch it, right, and make it as easy as possible. And if there's just games on all day, that's a bit like bowl season college football, right? If there's just games on all day, you don't care who you're watching most of the time. You just it's football, right? I think we can do that for hockey too. Just put the games on, make it easy for people to watch.
No doubt. And I will definitely have 2 TVs, one with the Frozen Frenzy and then one with the of course, Panthers versus Sharks. I might need to get another TV as well for NLCS Game 7, as well as big sports night tomorrow on the calendar for sure. But JD, I want to thank you so much for joining me on this crossover edition of Locked On Florida Panthers and Locked On Sharks. Tell everybody where they can find you and your work online, my friend.
Of course, you can find the show wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube as well. You can find the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. You can find me on Twitter at myfryhole. Armando, where can people find you?
Follow me on X at Monoman12. Follow the show account on X and Instagram at LO_FLA Panthers, and follow the show account anywhere you listen to podcasts and on YouTube as well, as the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast just hit 600 subscribers, and we are doing a little bit of a giveaway. So Panther fans, we will announce more about that on tomorrow's episode. But JD, thank you so much, my friend, and we will be chatting, of course, as always, because not only hockey season but football season with the Dolphins as well. So thank you, my friend, for joining me.
Thanks, buddy.
And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on Locked On NHL Network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, Flip Livingstone and Steel Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez with JD Young, and you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.